Good morning, Las Vegas. It's not really morning, but I always wanted to say this. My name is Gil Cohen, and I'll be your host at this almost last lecture. I want to thank you all for attending this lecture. It's not trivial that all of you stayed. I know that many went home or just staying out at the pool, so a big shout out to you for coming. And today I'm going to talk about remote vulnerabilities in named pipes. So let's begin. First I'll start off with some introduction of myself. I'm going to tell you about my past, or the thing that I can tell you at least. Then we're going to talk about some key terms of Windows named pipes in general in inter-process communication. Then I'm going to show you how to connect to named pipes access control list, and in the wild, enumerating and sniffing named pipes, fuzzy named pipes, exploitation. Then we'll move on to the audience favorite part, which is live demos, and then I'll show you some mitigations and the conclusion of my talk. So let's start. My name is Gil, I'm 34 years old, and I'm the CTO of Comsec Global. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my company at the end of this lecture. This is the biggest company in Israel and the most veteran one, 30 years, 150 consultants. And I've been a hacker for about 13 years now. I started in the Israeli military. I was a penetration tester of all kind, application and infrastructure, and I even worked with some Israeli security agencies. I cannot tell you which, because then I have to kill you, and I don't want to kill you at the beginning of my presentation, and you are more than I. So I'll just spare the details. So I've been hacking to a lot of stuff, including Windows application, and during one of my penetration tests and my hacks, I came across this vulnerability technique that I'm going to show you that was completely unknown or forgotten by penetration testers, and this was the motivation for my talk. But before talking about the vulnerability itself, let's start with some key terms, just in case you are not familiar with it. So, inter-process communication, this is an operating system mechanism that allows processes and applications to manage shared data. You can either use, for example, internal sockets, which probably most of you know, and you have different kinds of inter-process communication as well. Each and every participant in this communication is considered either a client or a server, and it can be both, and you can have multiple clients and multiple servers, end-to-end communication. And of course, both clients and servers can be defined together. So, Windows named pipes is one of the methods to perform inter-process communication in Windows. It can either be half one-way or two-way, or full duplex, and it utilizes a unique file system that is called NPFS, Name Pipe File System. It can be accessed by any process in your local operating system, subject to security checks, which is obviously ACLs. So all instances of the same name pipe, a connection to a named pipe is called an instance, have the same name. If you have a name pipe called Gil, then everyone who talks to this name pipe will create an instance with the same name. So there are many configurations and variants of name pipes, half duplex or full duplex, byte-oriented or packet-oriented, local or network. And this is what people miss. So inter-process communication, unlike its name, is not only internal. It's not only an internal interface in your operating system. It can be used remotely. Named pipe communication is not encrypted. So if you have any named pipe that is connected remotely, it would use either SMB, port 445, or RPC, which is port 135, and it is totally unencrypted. So you can obviously just sniff it and replay it, and in some cases even perform a man-in-the-middle attack. RPC Some of you, most of you must probably know it, but I'm going to tell it anyway. This is a protocol that allows one program to invoke services from a program located in another computer. You just call, or another service, another process. You just call it from one computer to the other. It uses port 135, and DCRPC is just a variant or a subtype of RPC, which allows the programmer to think that the procedure that he is calling is actually local, when in fact it is a remote one. So it just makes the programmer's life a little bit more convenient. SMB, or server message block, this is a famous protocol. It can be used for file sharing and printers, serial port, etc. It's mostly used for file sharing, and probably most of you know it through links like this, URLs that looks like this. You can see 192.168.1.1/$. This is an SMB connection, or / file server. This is the famous SMB protocol. It uses port number 445, so if you have any of these ports open, you can connect to named pipes as well. But there are actually two kinds of named pipes, not only the regular named pipes. You also have unnamed pipes or anonymous pipes, not the famous anonymous that you see on the right, but a named pipe with a random name. This named pipe is used only between a parent process and each child process, and it cannot be used for communication over the network, and this is why I haven't focused it during my research, because I wanted to show, to see which named pipes can be connected remotely. So, how can you connect to a named pipe? All pipes are placed in a root directory of npfs, which is / the IP address of the computer, can be dot, for example, if it's the local computer, /pipe/pipe name. This is how you connect to a pipe, but you cannot just open your Windows run command and just connect to it. You need a special connection. You either need to do it using programmer's code or using dedicated tool that I'm going to show you in the next slides. So here is a URL, for example, for connecting to a named pipe. You can see /dot/pipe/foo. This is a connection to a local pipe. And if you want to connect to the same pipe remotely, and the ACL allows it, you just add the IP address instead of the dot character. So, the best tool in order to connect to named pipes is IO Ninja. This is a commercial tool. It used to be free for a non-commercial usage, but they just changed their license agreement. So now it is paid only, and you can have a non-registered copy of it. And this is like the Swiss Army knife of communication in general, and named pipes specifically. You don't necessarily need to use it for regular TCP/IP communication, because you have Netcat and Nmap and many other great tools, but this is the only good tool for named pipes communication, and this is the tool I was using during my research. So how does the communication looks like when you open Wireshark? Because I told you that named pipes can be remotely accessed. So this is how it looks like. You can see here a Wireshark window, and you can see that the named pipe is using SMB communication. And here at the bottom, you can see that this is total clear text. So whatever is being transferred to a remote named pipe can be sniffed. But there are some limitations. If you are a programmer and you start your own named pipe, you listen to a named pipe, you can protect it. So how can you do it? Using ACLs. Named pipes are implemented by a file system driver in Windows NT, started from Windows 8 in fact, and they follow the ACLs or DACLs, discretionary access control list permissions that are, but the default value is that the permission is set to anyone or anonymous login. So if you create your own named pipe and you don't set the ACLs specifically, anyone can connect to it. So many named pipes allows either anonymous access or only domain user access, but obviously it's still a lot of users that can exploit vulnerabilities in it. You can modify ACLs and to make only specific users access named pipe, but this is not the default behavior, and unfortunately I witnessed a lot of named pipes that just didn't do it, and I'm going to show you some examples. So here is a named pipe, for example. This is a Windows built-in named pipe. It is called init shutdown, and you can see that the permissions for this named pipe is everyone, anonymous, and administrators, which actually has no effect because everyone can access it. So anyone can access init shutdown named pipe, and this is a built-in Windows operating system named pipe. And named pipe, unlike any other interface you know, either regular SMB files or sockets, have an additional feature which is called maximum instances. A connection to a named pipe is called an instance, a named pipe instance. And on the left you can see the different named pipes and their current number of instances. And on the right you can see that there is a maximum volume for some of them. If the value is -1, then there is no limitation, but if this is not -1, then there can be a maximum number of connections or instances to these named pipes. So you can see here several named pipes with the value 1 or the value 7, so it means that you cannot just connect to it without any limitation. So let's talk about named pipes in the wild. Most of you probably heard about the Configure worm or Configure virus that was detected in November 2008. It used flaws in Windows operating system and it used dictionary attacks on administrator passwords to propagate while forming a botnet. And it used advanced malware techniques similarly to the recently discovered NotPetya and WannaCry ransomwares and malwares. So it infected a lot of computers, millions of computers in 190 countries, and it had several variations. This is how it looked like. Very nice. One variation, which is .NAME variation C, creates a named pipe over which it pushes URLs for downloadable payloads to other infected computers in your LAN. So if you have one computer that is infected and it gets the command from the command and control center, it just propagates this command through named pipes in order to make sure that the rest of the infected computer gets the same command as well. And this is not only used by Configure but by others as well, such as Mocker, ZX shells, and even the now famous Petya. So how can you enumerate and scan for named pipes? If you want to have a look at your own named pipes in your own Windows computer, you can just use the sysinternals pipe list. This is the best tool for enumerating named pipes. And you can just run it and immediately see what we just witnessed in the previous slide. All of the pipe names, the current number of instances, and the maximum number of instances. So this is what you should use if you want to see what named pipes are listening in your own computer. There are multiple tools of checking the access control lists for named pipes. This is a deprecated tool. It is called Beyond Security, Pipe Security Editor, but unfortunately it is unmaintained and deprecated because it only works in Windows XP or older. But you can see that this tool used to allow you to edit named pipes permissions in real time, just like as you do with files. So unfortunately there are no similar tools for newer versions of Windows, and this is a deprecated tool. But for current Windows versions you can use the sysinternals pipe ACL. It comes with the same package, it's pipe list, and once you activate it you see the output that we saw earlier, which tells you which groups have permissions for the current named pipe that you're checking. In this example, I was checking another Windows operating system named pipe, which is called LSA RPC, and yet again, anonymous access to everyone. So how can you remotely enumerate named pipes? There aren't many tools for doing it, but there are several scripts in Metasploit, not very common scripts and not well known, but you can use it nonetheless. This is called pipe editor, and you can use it in order to remotely scan for named pipes. If you want to scan it using SMB, you use the original pipe editor script. If you want to use it to scan it using RPC, you use pipe DC RPC auditor. So here you can see an example of executing pipe DC RPC auditor that allows you to scan remotely. This script has their own database of named pipe names, because it's not like scanning for ports. You don't know all of the values of the valid values, so you need to have a list of named pipes. I don't know how this is well maintained or not, but you can still try to use it. So, how can you sniff content of named pipes? Let's say you want to discover a new vulnerability, a new remote code execution, or a new denial of service. The first thing that you need to do is to get a valid communication. So how can you do it? So, Ion Ninja to the rescue, yet again. Ion Ninja, as I told you earlier, is the Swiss Army knife of named pipes. You can use it both to connect to the named pipes, to listen to named pipes. If you want, you can even create a named pipe server, and also to use it as a named pipe sniffer. And this is a new model in Ion Ninja. So you can see in my own computer, I can start it. It has some bugs because every now and then it finds named pipes, anonymous named pipes that it cannot read, but if we wait a little bit, let's see if I see some named pipes communication. As I told you, it's a rather new model, so it's not perfect yet, but let's just wait for a second or two. This is not me, this is the Windows operating system I went for. Come on, Bill Gates, no? Okay, I'll just show you in the presentation. So this is how it looks like. When you see communication, so you can see the open named pipes. In this example, it's MMS server, and you can see the entire communication totally clear text, unless, of course, the protocol itself embeds encryption of any kind. So, a key process of finding vulnerabilities, either if you want to jailbreak iPhone or you want to find any unmanaged code vulnerabilities, is fuzzing. And this is what we're doing. If you are not familiar with fuzzing, let's just quickly go through the basic terminology and definition of it. Fuzzing or fuzz testing is an automated software testing technique that involves providing invalid, unexpected, or random data. You just bombard the interface with any unexpected values. But it sounds a little bit like QA, but this is done automatically. QA is usually done manually. You have the QA guy that just write the scripts and send it, fuzzers do it for you. The automatic fuzzing tools do it for you in the fuzzing process. You then monitor the program that you are trying to crash or to find vulnerability in, and if anything is wrong, you know that you can further investigate it. Usually fuzzers are used to test unmanaged code, C and C++, because usually you want to find any sort of buffer overflows. And for example, Microsoft embeds fuzzing processes in their development operation for any product they do. For example, if you have Microsoft Office, they perform multiple fuzzing on each and every application of it, and they found multiple vulnerabilities in their parsers. So this is a very useful technique in finding bugs. But there are in fact two kinds of fuzzings: dumb fuzzing or black box fuzzing and smart fuzzing. dump fuzzing is you just go over all the possible inputs without understand the expected one. You just bombard it with random data or with sequential data, and you don't understand what's the purpose of the parameter that you're trying to fuzz. This is simple to implement, very fast to implement, sometimes impossible to execute because you have multiple options, and the code coverage is very poor. You don't cover all of the different options in the programmer's code. On the other hand, there is the smart fuzzing or white box fuzzing. In this technique, you understand the expected input. You understand each parameter that is being sent to the interface, in this example, the named pipes, and you modify, slightly modify, and test in the edges of these the valid values to check for bugs and errors. So this is smart data generation, and if you have, for example, a file and you have a checksum field, so in smart fuzzing you need to calculate it, and of course it is harder to implement. We're in Comsec, we don't have a lot of resources like different companies that presented before me, so we weren't doing a lot of smart fuzzing, mostly focused on dump fuzzing, but still we found very interesting vulnerabilities, and the reason that I show you this presentation is I want others to move forward and use smart fuzzing as well to find new zero-days vulnerabilities. So we also found like this nice little script that is called Advanced Pipe Fuzzer. You can download it from this URL, and it was written many years ago, but as I told you, not many people know that named pipes can be accessed remotely, so it was hard-coded for local named pipes only. So we slightly modified it and improved it a little bit, and we used it in our research in order to find the vulnerabilities that I'm going to show you in our live demo. So let's see some examples of exploitation and impacts. So many pieces of software work with hidden or undocumented APIs. This can either be a web server or a Windows application server that listens to a named pipe which is totally undocumented. The forgotten nature of named pipes leaves uncharted territory of socket-like interfaces that contains vulnerability, remote denial of service, buffer overflows, remote code execution, and any kind of vulnerability that you can think of. Named pipes fall in between application penetration test and infrastructure penetration test. If you are an applicative penetration tester, you probably usually just use the normal ports, which is obviously HTTP, and and every once in a while you use other variants as well, but you never look at RPC or an SMB in the first place. If you see our RPC or SMB, you just skip it. And most of the times you barely look at it, or even don't know what it is. So application penetration test doesn't look at it. Don't look at it. And if you are in infrastructure penetration test, whenever you see an RPC or SMB port which is open, you try to brute force it. You try to brute force credentials, and you use your username and password, admin username and password, and you try to get valid credentials in order to hack into the system, but you never look at the named pipes that listens behind these open ports. If you are an EDR expert, endpoint detect and response, the multiple products that try to defend your endpoint user station, you probably don't take special notice to remote connections. You know what named pipes are, you know that you can use it in order to hack into stuff and to elevate privileges, but you don't think a lot about the remote nature that is possible, remote connection of the named pipes. So if your software, if your Windows installed software reads data from named pipes without validation, it's like any vulnerable application. You can have multiple vulnerabilities, including buffer overflow, that can lead to denial of service, or even, in some cases, remote code execution. So if named pipe ACL, access control list, allow remote access, then remote denial of service or remote code execution can be triggered. Research of cause behind the crash will allow the attacker to facilitate it as a zero-day vulnerability. If you'll find vulnerability in one of Windows named pipe interfaces that can be connected remotely, and there are several such interfaces, This can be used in order to spread malwares like WannaCry or NotPetya. Imagine the new NotPetya 2 or something similar that can utilize named pipes vulnerabilities. And of course, remote denial service is game over. So let's see a case study of some interesting vulnerabilities that we saw in 3 different Windows applications: Viber, QBittorrent, and SugarSync. You probably all know Viber, but just in case you just landed from Mars or from the moon, this is a cellular and endpoint social communication application. The most common one is installed on your mobile device, but there is another version that you can install on your Windows operating system. It allows you to perform free calls, text, pictures. This is the major competitor of WhatsApp, and it had 800 million users worldwide. QBittorrent, this is a torrent client. Probably most of you know what torrent is. This is a cross-platform client for a BitTorrent protocol, free and open source, written in C++. And SugarSync, the last application that I'm going to show you the demo for, this is a cloud service that enables active synchronization of files across computers and other devices, similar to Dropbox. Used for file backup, access, syncing, sharing, supports a variety of operating systems, including Windows. And this is what I found interesting. And these 3 applications has one common feature. They all use the widely used Qt framework as part of their application. This is a cross-platform application development framework for desktop, embedded and mobile. It also supports Windows. And in the Windows implementation of Qt framework, there were a vulnerability in a feature or functionality that is called Qt single app. This is responsible for writing temporary files, probably to make sure that your application runs only once, that you don't open multiple instances of the same application. So by fuzzing named pipes, we performed just a dumb fuzzing on this interface. We found a remote denial of service, or we could remotely crash the programs that I just showed you. And in QBittorrent, we were also able to perform a remote command injection, which I'm going to show you. So I'm now silently pray to the demo gods. If you know the pray, just join me. I encourage you to. So this is the virtual machine I'm going to do the demo with. This is the IP address. And first I'm going to activate Viber. Oh, but just a second. Before I activate Viber, let me just show you the different pipes. So I activate pipe list, which is the sysinternal tool for enumerating named pipes, and you can see different Windows named pipes, init shutdown that we saw earlier, LSAS, NTS, VCS, probably SVC host, and other services. And once I start Viber and execute it once again, you would see that suddenly I have this named pipe, which contains Viber in it. So obviously this is Qt single app, Viber, and now I'm going to exploit it. So let's get back to my computer. And now this is IO Ninja. I'm going to open a file stream that allows me to remotely connect to a named pipe. And I'll just put the right IP in here. What was it again? (31.132) pipe/pipe name. Oh, just a second. I have some problems. You need to be a domain user in this example, so I need to put valid set of credentials to have access to any named pipe in this example. So I'll just put username and password. Okay, now I'm connected to Viber's name pipe remotely. And if I put just a single character, this is all what is needed for this vulnerability. If I hit the send button, you would see that now Viber is no longer responding. And this is the case with SugarSync as well. But this time I'm going to perform dump fuzzing using the script I just showed you. So it's starting. And you can see that here I have a very similar name pipe, which is called Qt Single App SugarSync or SugarS, and I'm going to copy it. This might look like random characters, but this is in fact fixed values. So if you have Viber and you have SugarSync, you know that these name pipes are fixed. So now I'm going to activate the fuzzer we're using. Okay. And you can see that just after 2 requests, this is all it needed, and SugarSync is also dead. And the last example I'm going to show you, this is the coolest example we found. This is in BitTorrent. So I'll just copy and paste the name pipe's name. But this time, I won't just send a single character. We witnessed a very interesting behavior in this named pipe. For some reason, they actually use values from this named pipe in order to perform commands. So you can see that I sent 2 A characters with a space afterward, and then I send defcon 25. And if I send it, we witnessed this error. Torrent file defcon 25 does not exist. And now I prepared this rickroll torrent link, and I just replace defcon 25 with the rickroll link. Let me just reconnect to it. And now BitTorrent is never going to give you up. Thank you. So, let's talk about mitigation and the defense for the attack that I just showed you. For the developer point of view, if you are a developer, you should know the risk. If you're using name pipes in your Windows application, you should create name pipes with access control list for specific users. You should always follow the least privilege approach. Don't give any redundant permissions that are not needed in order for your application to activate correctly. Just give minimal permissions, the minimal number of users. If it is not remote, the name pipe should not be remotely accessed, just block it altogether and make it local only. This is also an option. And if you have the possibility, just limit the maximum number of instances for your name pipe. For users or third-party software clients, know the risk. Just block all unnecessary SMB and RPC services, 135 and 445, obviously, especially over the internet. If you have RPC and SMB open to the internet, you have big problems unrelated to named pipes. So just block it altogether. Segment your network, so at least if one computer is affected, it won't be able to spread to other computers as well, or if you have an attacker in one section of your network, you won't be able to exploit these vulnerabilities in other sections as well. And always install latest software security patches. Just in recent days, it was found that in Malwarebytes, the famous anti-malware software, there were a similar vulnerability to the one I just showed you that allowed you to inject commands as a system user. So they fixed it, so you need to install the latest version. My favorite point of view, which is the hacker's point of view, just know the opportunity and hack. You should just use the technique that I showed you, and in order to search for remote code execution and remote denial of service, whenever you see OpenSMB and RPC ports, and just have fun. You can use it and utilize it in order to find zero-day vulnerabilities that are completely uncharted. Some closing remarks. Windows name pipes are forgotten, remotely accessible socket-like interface. You don't need to put your socket number, you need to put the name pipe name. This is a whole newly rediscovered potential world of local and remote vulnerabilities, increased attack surface, and don't ignore it because it can lead to significant vulnerabilities. If you liked the presentation, I encourage you to contact us in ComSec. We are a small consultant company and we are not as big as the companies that we're presenting. So in order to support our work and to work with professionals, I encourage you to contact us. I have my email in the end. We are a small company, so we have the speed and the agility in multiple services. That includes penetration tests of all kinds, security development lifecycle, architecture design, GRC services, ISO 27001 and PCI DSS, and also red teaming, DDoS simulation, and offensive security services of all kinds. So, if you have any question or you want to contact me following my presentation, or of course, if you want to contact me regarding working with ComSec, you have my Twitter and my LinkedIn and email. And I want to thank everyone that participated in this research. Also I want to take Viber, who were the only one to take this vulnerability seriously. We tried to contact other application owners as well, but we couldn't. So I want to take Viber as well. And Adi, happy birthday and Mazal Tov, and thank you.